I am excited to bring to you today somebody again from Canada, Chatham, Ontario. We've got Heather Prestanski. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Prestanski.
I got it. Prestanski here today. And we connected through another one of my guests, Rob Garcia. And tell me that's how it happens here at the 5-minute bark. We just kind of get referred after referred after referred. And it's really exciting because this is easy because everyone I get referred is an amazing guest. So I'm sure that Heather is going to be amazing here today as well. So Heather, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone here today? From what I understand, you are a limitless life coach and business coach. So let's hear it.
Yes. Absolutely. So my name, like you said, is Heather Prestanski. I am a limitless life and business coach. And essentially my story, I shifted my life from suffering from PTSD as a result of corporate bullying and not being able to leave the house for weeks at a time. I think my record is 16 days without leaving the house or talking to anyone but my husband, to a 4-time successful entrepreneur badass, just living a life that is completely and totally unbound. And so I live my life denying the status quo and embracing my rebel redheaded Canadianness. And so I always say that I just kind of go about, waving the middle finger to the social norm because I believe that it's the social norm that really holds us back from creating and living this dream life that we all crave and we all want and that we all have inside of us. So really, I come from the mantra, you are now free to live your life without limits. I tell myself this every single day. I tell my clients this every single day. And really, that's my goal, is to spread that message.
It's amazing that I'm continually hearing this about, freeing yourself, unleashing yourself, be you. It's constantly coming up more and more and more. Why aren't we ourselves in the first place is really what's happening in this world. Everybody is, and we're all guarded. We're all behind this glass. We're messaging instead of talking. We're unconnected, or what my friend said, walking zombies. And it's just really good to hear that my guests, all of them, are just really kind of, one of the first things they say is just like you said, they're talking about, freeing themselves from what?
Yeah. So for me, it was freeing myself from this image of what I was supposed to be, right? I mean, growing up, I was always really good in school. I was always kind of the smart kid, but didn't really have to try to be the smart kid. So I had high expectations. Everybody else placed these really high expectations on me, right? I wanted to be a hairdresser, honestly. And everyone's like, you can't be a hairdresser. You have to be a doctor or a lawyer or like typical smart person job, right?
Yep.
And so I went to school to be a lawyer and I had a full scholarship. I had the highest entry GPA entering into university. And they gave me a full scholarship and I went through it for a few years and then I quit when I was 20 years old. I just quit. I said, this isn't my life. This isn't for me. And I kind of went about this journey trying to find what it is I want to do. And along that way, I was always told all of the things I had to change about myself. When I worked in banking, I was really young when I worked in banking, and they would say, you should dress only in black and gray and navy to make yourself appear older, or you should wear your hair up to make yourself appear older, so that people will think that you know more, right? Or when I worked in marketing, people would say, I actually had an executive tell me that he couldn't stand the sound of my voice. So I had no chance of moving up within the company unless I changed my voice. And I was like, I can't just change my voice, right? My mom sounds the same way that I do. I'm like, I'm not just going to grow out of this. I'm not going to hit 50 one day and just grow out of my voice. And so it was depressing. It was like, I can't be successful being who I am. Are you kidding me, right? And so I kind of hit this wall. And really, I think that's all that breaking free really means, is just breaking free of those social norms, breaking free of the way that people say that you have to be in order to succeed, and realizing that you can succeed being exactly who you are. You can succeed being that crazy self and your unique self. And actually, you can probably succeed at a much higher level by releasing that.
Yeah, it's amazing how now, I mean, you're in the business of it, of course, is now we have people teaching us how to be ourselves versus how to be this way, right? It used to be a world of, you need to be this way. You need to do, like you said, wear these colors, act this way, move this way, work this way. Now it's like, Heather, be free, Smile when you want to smile. Jump up and down when you want to jump and down. Wear any colors you want. Stop wearing the same colors as everybody else. It's just really changed a lot. And it's interesting to see how much happier people have become, how much more creative people have become because of this. So tell us more about what you're doing with your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So really my goal in my business is to touch as many people as possible and to help them break through their limits. And people, they place different limits on themselves depending on their different areas of their life. So I say I'm a life and business coach. I do a lot of business strategy with people because most of my clients realize that they're limiting themselves being within a job, right? I mean, you have a limit on your income. You have a limit on the amount of vacation time that you take. You have a limit on all of these different things. You also have a limit on your security. A lot of people think being an entrepreneur is super risky, and that's the reason why they sort of bury themselves into these jobs. But really, nobody's going to walk through my office door today and say, Heather, you're fired, right? I mean, I have the most secure job in the world because I work for myself and I'm not going to fire myself, right? So I walk out all of my clients through, I believe that there's 5 steps to breaking yourself free of any limit and creating success in any area of your life. And so I like to walk people through these 5 steps. And we do this for anything that you come across because it's a really constant cycle that you're going to do in and of your life. So the very first step in that really is just to clarify your vision and the direction that you want to achieve, right? A lot of clients, when they come to me, they really don't know what it is they're after. I'll say, well, how much income do you want to create? And they'll say, well, enough to be comfortable. Well, what is enough? How do you know when you'll find it when it's just enough, right? Or where is it that you want to live? Oh, I don't know, someplace warm. Well, how will you know? How will you create that in your life unless you're incredibly, incredibly clear on the vision? What kind of marriage do you want to have? Right? What do you want out of your marriage? Unless you know those specifics and you're really, really clear, then how can you create that? So in step number 2 would be to strategize. So my husband and I, we actually sat down last weekend and we strategized our life out. And we'll do this periodically, right? But we will literally write out, get really clear on what it is we want for our marriage and what it is we want for our home and what it is that we want for our income and what it is that we want to do with that money. There's one thing to obtain all that wealth and to obtain success financially. It's quite another thing to know what you're going to do with the money. So that's why you see a lot of people who gain a lot of money and then go broke because they don't really know, they don't have a purpose behind that, right? So strategizing your actions, strategizing how you're going to get there step by step by step. You know that it's going to be flexible, right? Things are going to happen. But really the trick to this is that most people don't know how much effort to apply to any situation that they have in life, and they underestimate the effort that it's going to need to take to get there, right? So when I wanted to marry my husband, I was pretty clear that I wanted to marry my husband, and it still took me 4 years to convince him. And it actually took me saying to him, Kyle, I'm going to marry somebody in Vegas this November. Whether or not it's you, I don't know. You can show up or you cannot, right? And so finally he was like, yeah, okay, let's step up. Everybody else knew we were going to get married, but for some reason he just was sort of in this rut, right? And he was comfortable, and so he didn't want to change. And now we're really, really happy. But it took me so much more effort, and that's the way that almost everything is, right? A lot of people will say, well, in order for me to get one customer, I need to call, let's say, 5 people to be conservative. I need to have 5 meetings to be conservative. Well, what we underestimate is how many calls it's going to take for you to get those 5 meetings. It could be 100, right? Especially when nobody knows you. So we underestimate the amount of effort, and then we get really upset when we're not reaching our goals, and we get really discouraged when we're not reaching our goals. So really knowing what it's going to take to get there. Step number 3 is upgrading your skill set. So along the way, you may find that hey, I need to hire a team. Now I know I have to learn how to be a leader. Or, hey, I now have to learn how to love myself so that I can be loved, right? Step number 4 is optimizing your environment. So, if you want to lose weight, what is the first thing that you do? You go to the cupboard, you throw out all the junk food, right? And so that's kind of the same thing with anything in your life. You need to optimize your environment. So if I want to take massive action today and I want to, do these podcast episodes and I want to be getting myself out there, then I need to have an environment that's distraction free. Right. So one thing that I recently did as I'm ramping up my coaching business and doing things like this is I hired a personal assistant, and she comes and one of her jobs is to keep my dog quiet when I'm on things like this, because I found every time I was doing this, he was barking. Right. And I'd be like, whoa. And I record a lot of videos. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. And every single time I was recording them over and over and over again because Corbin was barking. And I would say, oh, Corbin just says I'm making a good point, but it's embarrassing, right? And so you need to optimize your environment. And the last piece, which is the most important, I always say, it really should be first, is mastering your psychology. And this is something that we have to constantly work on. So psychology is 80% of your success. Actions are just 20. And we already talked about the fact that you probably need to take a lot more action than you think. So just imagine how much you need to work on your mind. And this is where I've had to do the majority of my growth. My confidence went from like 1 million right on down to 0 when I was suffering from the PTSD. And it takes a lot to really build that back up. And it's a constant process, right?
Yes.
You still kind of get in front of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on camera today. How does my hair look? How are people going to think of my bright red hair? All of these crazy things. Am I speaking well enough? It's a big reason why lottery winners, they often return to the same level of poverty they were at before, because they know they never work on their psychology and they never work on their mindset. And so that's a really, really big piece.
It's certainly important to work on mindset, and we work on it daily. Yeah. I mean, constantly I'm working on my mindset, and it's just in little ways that you really have to kind of set those beliefs and structures in place and practice them. But really truly believe in them. I just came back from 4 days of Anthony Robbins. I'm sure you're familiar with him. And we spent 4 days literally like immersed in this room from 9 a.m. until 2 a.m. literally in this room. We got 2 breaks, one for 9 minutes and one for 30 minutes. But a lot of what we came up was belief structures and habits, and how you just have to stick to the plan. And once you stick to the plan, and you will be successful. It's fact. And of course, surround yourself with the people, right, that have the skills you want, right? And
absolutely.
Hiring a business coach like yourself, you obviously have a lot of experience with other people that have businesses that are successful, and having somebody like you in their life is a shortcut to success. When he wants to become good at something, he hires the best in the world to do that. Of course, he can afford that, or he can do trade with them. We're not able to hire, the best in the world at basketball because it would cost us millions, but maybe you can, I don't know. But that's the key, is to find people that are better than you, or find people that have all the resources that you have. And having a business coach or having a life coach has been a remarkable experience, even for coaches. I've heard over and over again, business coaches, life coaches, they have coaches themselves that coach them. So they're eating their own medicine or drinking their own coffee here in this case. So I'm just so excited to have another one on here today. But I want to go back and take a step before you started all of this and you were kind of in the corporate world or somewhere. What was the point in your life that you just said, I had enough? Like that moment, that time that said, I am done with this. The official.
Absolutely.
Do you have, can you recite that?
Oh yeah. I had a walkout moment. So I burned bridges hard. Like there was no going back, because I was basically like, bye Felicia, walked out the door. Here's my laptop. I had managers flying down. Like, I mean, it was done. And I didn't leave graciously, to tell you the truth. It is a regret that I have. But, I had reached a breaking point because I was so beaten down and I was so past my point of confidence. I had led a team to be the number 1 team before going up to accept a leadership award. My manager sat me down and she gave me a book, and it was a leadership book, and highlighted all these passages of things she thought that I needed to work on. And this was literally minutes before, being able to kind of enjoy the fruits of my labors and enjoy the year of hard work that me and my team have just put into place. And she's already telling me, well, you need to lead your team differently. You need to do these things differently, which there's a time and a place for that, right? I mean, she knows. I sometimes look back and I say, well, she knows that I'm really big into self-development. I always have been. So that could have been where she was coming from. But geez, like that stung, right? That stung. And so we went on a few more months, and to tell you the truth, like they were trying to groom me to take over for more senior leadership positions. And they wanted me to change just about everything about me. And of course, when I started changing, my team started changing, and they started really resenting me and not responding the way that they used to, because they knew I wasn't being authentic to me. They were like, who is this person who now all of a sudden is using the same fear tactics that the company uses, because they were forcing that down my throat and I'm forcing it down theirs. And eventually I just lost myself so much when one of my employees, he said to me, you know, it sounds like you're way happier when you're at home decorating your house than you are when you're with us at work. And I was like, shit, yeah, like really, I am. I'm way more happy when I'm just kind of in a rut, have everything turned off, and I don't have to deal with this. And this is no way to live my life. And, you know, just days later, I was like, I'm done. I was in the middle of a training course. And I just sort of sent off to my boss, you know, I'll walk people through the rest of the training course and then I'm done as of this weekend. And so, you know, from there I kind of went, oh my gosh, we had just gotten married and just bought a house. We were, you know, tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And I was like, ooh, I was the breadwinner at the time. I was making almost $200,000 a year after bonuses and after everything else. And with my secondary income from a little side hobby that I had that wasn't even a business. And so I had no business plan and no business idea. And I had to hustle hard, right? Like I just had a new mortgage and this beautiful house that we had just bought. And I had to make sure that we could keep it. And so, yeah, so I had to hustle hard and find a way to make that work. And I did. We always do. But that was really my breaking point. And I sat there to myself and I said, well, what now? Do I look for another job? And I said, like, I really don't think I can. I really don't think that I can work for somebody else right now. I was too broken. And I remember when I quit my job, I immediately drove myself to my therapist's office. I'd never been to therapy before in my life. And I just said to her, like, I think I've gone cuckoo crazy. You might need to commit me. I just walked out on a huge job. I mean, I was like 28 years old. And so I was making a ton of money. Who was 28 years old, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I just screwed up my entire life. And yeah, and so I drove to my therapist, and she's the one who diagnosed me with PTSD. We had some mad, crazy things happening. I mean, my team was really hostile. They really, really got to a point where they just hated me, and to the point where I was getting threatening letters to my home. Like, it was really crazy.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and so it took me a lot to really reconstruct myself. But I always say entrepreneurship saved my life, because I would be on welfare. I'd be in the streets. Like, I don't know where I would be had I not had the option to work for myself, because there was just no way that I could have worked for anybody else or with anybody else at that point in my life.
It comes to enough and enough. And the funny thing is when you walked out the door, they probably, you know, they treat you like a number, and you were just, okay, we're going to get somebody else. You're done. You know, there's no like, oh my God, please come back. We'll change the environment. We'll help you. Nope. You're gone. Goodbye. Next.
Yeah.
And somebody,
I was probably dead to them the moment I started losing my team, right? As an effect of trying to implement the different things in the different ways and driving myself crazy as to what do they want from me and how do I fit into this mold, right? And so, yeah. It was basically I accept your resignation, and that was it. Okay, bye.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So let's talk about that. You up and quit your job, and you had little income, from side things on. What were some thoughts you were focusing on? Obviously, it's just not that easy to rebuild a $200,000 income. Yeah. What were some things that you had to really keep you going to focus on elevating that income again, or creating that income?
So my husband calls this the dark ages, right? Because I was super, super depressed. And there were days when it was really hard just to get out of bed, but I knew that I had to. I knew that I couldn't let my husband down. I knew that, we had just created this dream home and we really loved where we were at. And I just didn't really want to fall backwards. And so, the first thing that I had to do was I had to work through the fact that my self-worth was not tied to my title and my income. And that was really big for me. I really felt that my self-worth was a result of the kind of job and the kind of income that I had created in my life. And so I stepped back and I said, what is it that's going to make me happy right now? And one thing that really stuck out was the interior design. It was something that I had dabbled in before going to university. I had taken a few courses. Everyone always complimented me on our home and things like that. And so I started into that business. And I don't like to do things the same way that everyone else does them because I find that it's too slow and I don't like to do things slow. And so I created this crazy sales force within my interior design business, and sales is what I knew, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take some of what I know. I'm going to apply it into this brand new business where I have no portfolio. I mean, who's going to pay me $120,000 to do a kitchen and give me that kind of budget when I've never done a kitchen in my life, right? I know how to do it. I have the software. I have all those fancy things to make the presentations, but I don't know how to do it. And I realized that, it doesn't come down to your product, your service. It doesn't come down to competition. It just comes down to getting enough people with eyes on you and taking that really massive action. The more no's you collect, yes, lies in the land of no's, right? So if you can collect 100 no's, there's bound to be a yes in there. But if you only collect 10 no's, chances are you might not find a yes. So I just went about and I collected no's, and I went on to sites like Kijiji and Craigslist and was like looking at people who had posted ads saying that they were looking for interior designers. I started a blog and I did Google AdWords. I hired an SEO specialist, even though I had no money. I had the faith that the money was going to come, right? And I hired this sales force, and they would go out and they would do presentations at large firms. So they do lunch and learn presentations on how to, feng shui your living room and how to do all of these things. And it would just be this fun thing that people could come into. But we gained a lot of clients from doing that. And so, I sold that business after 12 months. It created a 6-figure income for myself. And I found that I live in little tiny Chatham, Ontario, which is about 3.5 hours from Toronto. And most of my work was in Toronto. Average home here costs like $150,000, right? No one's going to put in a $110,000 kitchen. So I was doing most of my work up in Toronto, and I was sick of the travel. So I ended up going into another venture, which was a leggings business. I had a little bit of money from selling off the interior design firm, and I had done fashion in the past. I'd done retail sales in the past, and I was like, in the new year, we always wait. It's the end of the year. We always wait for the new year to start anything new. My New Year's resolution is going to be to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And so I imported a few of these leggings. I just thought, I'm going to sell them around Christmas time, just out of my living room. And that way I don't really have to leave the house. I get just relax, figure out what I'm going to do. I posted one day a $12 Facebook ad just locally. And I wasn't living in Chatham at the time. I was living in Windsor. It's down the road about 200,000 people, so a lot bigger than Chatham. But we had 50 people show up on the lawn. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a mob of people on my lawn waiting to come into my house. And so I called my husband. I was like, you need to get over here. You need to be my bodyguard. You need to let people in gradually, right? And I called my girlfriend and I'm like, hey, can you come over and help me with change rooms and all these things? I got this mob of people on my lawn. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. And within an hour and a half, I had sold out all of the leggings. I looked at my girlfriend. I said, hey, we have something here. Do you want to start a business? And she was like, yeah. And we pulled in another one of our friends. And that business, it was both leggings that we imported, and we also created a fashion line. So we created some athletic apparel. We designed it. We had it made. We had it manufactured. We shipped it all over Canada and the U.S. And we created a 7-figure business in under 6 months. It was really incredible. And this is all from one day in my living room, right? One day in my living room, having a couple hundred pairs of leggings sitting on my floor, on my couch, they were everywhere. It was a mess. It was so unprofessional. And yet we have this idea of for us to create this massive success, it has to be something really super professional. We built that website on a Shopify website and Facebook ads at $20 a day. And that was it. That was the extent, right? And through there, we ended up having over 100 people selling them. The business still exists today. I sold off my shares in December when I decided I really wanted to focus in on my coaching. But that experience in that business and having to manage such a large team really sparked my love of coaching and made me realize that what I've loved in all of my careers from banking and retail through marketing, through the interior design and through the leggings business was coaching. I loved coaching people and helping people to create the success on their own and helping other people succeed. And that's what kind of brought me here today.
Awesome. You heard it, everyone. You heard the story, success after success after success, but it all came from not giving up, focusing on the end goal, making the money. Of course, she had a beautiful house she wanted to keep, and she had a beautiful husband she wanted to keep. So there was obviously some motivation there. But you gotta leverage that kind of stuff in order to make things happen. If you don't leverage, what's around you to push you, then you're not going to get anywhere. You have to use leverage. I found that over and over again. Pain often makes you work harder. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I am so appreciative of your time here today. We're already well past our time with you today, but we've learned a lot about you, and you're an amazing human being. And I'm so excited for your career in coaching. I'm sure that's going to be just fine. I'm tuned in, tapped in with a bunch of coaches. So if you ever need any other people to share with, I'm sure you already know them all, but because I knowing you already got everybody all lined up, because I know you're working hard over there. Hustling hard. But awesome, everyone. We have Heather here, and she is amazing. So I hope you can model yourself after what she's done. I certainly have found inspiration myself personally. I'm going to get up and get my butt in gear after listening to her here today. So awesome. Thank you. Is there any way that people can reach out to you and find out more about your information?
Absolutely. So you know what? I hang out mostly through my website. All my links and everything are on there. It's heatherprestanskicoaching.com. And I'd love to offer a gift for your listeners that I created just for you. So heatherprestanski.com or heatherprestanskicoaching.com/bark. That's going to get you a free workbook. It's 25 questions to help you uncover your true purpose. That's going to give you that spark and that ignition to really get started and to really find your journey. Because, once you get that spark lit out from under you, there's a series of videos that will come afterwards that will teach you how to map out your success and the actions that you need to take in order to achieve that success. You're going to find your passion, achieve your success, and I'm going to help you walk all the way through that. So
awesome.
It's heatherprestanskicoaching.com/bark.
There you go. See that? She's even offering you guys some assistance out there from her knowledge and her experience. Wow. I need some water. Awesome. Thank you again. Audience, reach out. All right. This is free stuff she's giving here for you today. Lots of free time and knowledge that she's uncovered over years and years of experience. So again, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm sure we'll chat after this. But I'm going to end it right here. And listeners, I look forward to you coming up to our next episode. Bye, Heather.
Bye.
One critical thing highly successful people do is organize their goals and write them down. Success doesn't just happen to you, it's created by you. If you are ready to create a roadmap to greater success, you may want to listen to what I'm about to say. We have developed an online success platform that offers 6 critical tools for creating and implementing your success plan. If you're ready to turbocharge your personal development and success in every area of your life, it's time for you to join Team Cody Dog by visiting CodyDog.com. That's CODIEDOG.com.